Hey everyone, this is Renee Frey from Talent Q, and you're listening to the Conscious Professional Podcast. More people than ever want to be happy in their career and their personal life, but they're going about it all wrong. I'm here to set the record straight and emphasize the importance of prioritizing your mindset. I am thrilled you're here. In last week's episode, I shared a hack to stay resilient through life, through the times when it feels like it's beating you down. The hack that I shared teaches you how to shift your emotional state in an instant so that you can refocus, dust yourself off, get up, and keep going. I highly recommend going back and listening to that episode after this one, because throughout your life, you will continue to get tossed all kinds of obstacles, circumstances, road bumps, disappointments, heartbreak, rejection, and you've got to equip yourself to keep putting one foot in front of the other and never give up. Never throw in the towel. Just keep getting up and moving forward. Last week, I shared 3 moments in my life where I felt my body explode from the inside with intense gratitude. And one time I was hiking in Utah at Arches National Park with my husband and my 2 daughters. We were hiking to the trail to the Delicate Arch, and we were all walking in a straight line. So I took out my phone and went to take a selfie, and all of a sudden, as I looked into my phone screen, I went to make sure we were all in the photo. My heart exploded with intense gratitude, which I felt go through my entire body. And at that time, I had tears of joy streaming down my face. One of my favorite things is traveling the world. I love exploring new places, experiencing different cultures, trying new foods, learning about history, visiting historical sites, immersing myself in different cultures and traditions. I love everything about it. The unknown, the adventure, meeting new people, everything that involves everything with travel. So when my hubby and I met, we both had this love for travel. We traveled all over the world before we decided to have kids. We did that intentionally. We decided we wanted to travel and explore the world before having kids because we knew once we had kids, our travels were going to slow down a little bit. I know you can travel with babies and stuff, but Dustin and I didn't want to travel with our kids until they could pull their own luggage and suitcases, right? That's just how we wanted it to be. But our dream was to travel with them and show them the world. Once our daughters, Elena and Aubrey, were about 4 and 6 years old, we took them on their first trip to California to visit my sister over Thanksgiving. And since that, they have been traveling all over the world with us. They're now 12 and 14 years old, and we actually just had to renew their passports for an upcoming international trip that we're going on. They love the adventures of traveling too, which brings me so much joy in my life. I wanted to share another story of when I had a moment where my body exploded from the inside out emotionally. And that is the very moment I decided to get this tattoo on my forearm. But before I share that story, I need to go back in time a little bit to share how it all transpired that year. If you've been listening to me for a while, or if you follow me on socials, you know I am all about mindset. I am always working on myself every damn day, working to be more aware, to unwind limiting beliefs so I can have more growth, to get rid of old patterns and thinking and behaviors and be the best version of myself to live the most magnificent and fulfilling life possible. Along my journey, I share my transformations freely with my coaching clients and with you because I believe we all deserve to be living our best lives as long as we are on this planet and alive in existence. Hopefully, you can learn something from what I share too. So back in 2022, the words resistance and control kept bubbling up to the surface for me as something I had identified that I needed to pay extra attention to in my life, that I needed to focus on it and work on it. I am a total recovering control freak. I still have control issues at times, but today I'm much more aware of it than ever before. Take family vacations, for example. If we have spare time or plans that need to be made, I'm taking charge of making plans to fulfill our time. In my head, the plan that I would make is totally the best option, so I just jump in and take control. I am notorious for overscheduling my family on the first day of a vacation. Normally, you can't check in for a few hours, so I'll fill up all of our time with plans. My family hated this. They were tired from the plane ride and traveling, getting to our destination, and then I made them go, go, go. Let's go see this cool ghost town. Then let's go have pizza at the famous restaurant. Then let's go see this cave and cram it all in. And by the end of the day, my whole family is exhausted by the time we get to check into our hotel. And I've done this so much in the past, my family hates it. Now, I've since learned not to do this anymore because my family was so frustrated with me. And I don't want my family frustrated with me, especially on vacation. This is a time where we all get to relax, have fun together. So now I just go with the flow. After we land somewhere, I stopped learning controlling each and every second. Even going to the store with my husband, I'm totally known for hijacking his plans and saying, well, while we're here, we might as well go to this other store. Oh, and we might as well go grab a few things from Target. And Dustin's like, no, Renee, I invited you on this errand and you're totally controlling every stop we make. I can't help it. It's in my nature to be in control of what's at hand. I assume my tendency to have control comes from when I was little. I had a chaotic childhood and wasn't able to control anything. I have really changed over the years, though, and have been able to release controlling everything because I have learned I cannot control anything but myself and my reaction to something. That's all I can control. Resistance and control were something that I needed to work on clearly. And since I had been trying to pay attention to these moments, I noticed that the resources to combat it started popping up all over the place. Have you ever noticed stuff comes to you right when you're open and ready to hear it? When you're ready to receive or learn it or finally pay attention to it? I believe this is the universe at work, or divine timing, or synchronicity, as some could call it. So, of course, as the universe would have it, someone recommended a book to me. And the book was The 5 Things We Cannot Change and the Happiness We Find by Embracing Them. And that book is by David Rico. And in his book, the 5 things are: everything changes and ends. Things do not always go according to plan. Life is not always fair. Pain is a part of life. And people are not loving and loyal all the time. What I learned from this book is that all of these realities lead to suffering and pain, but when we shift from resistance to acceptance, we can find greater happiness when we accept things as they are instead of trying to control them. So instead of being disappointed in others, to be comfortable with having fewer expectations of others. This is a huge key. I have worked on releasing expectations of others for years. This was actually one of the first principles I learned when I started on this growth mindset journey years ago. And this book, David Rico's book, just expanded on it. I truly believe when we release any expectation that we have for others, we will never be disappointed. Now, this is different for me since I'm running a business and I have employees. And I'm sure any of you listening can relate if you are leading teams. This is a situation where it's different. We must have expectations for each employee and the position that they play at our companies. They're getting paid for meeting those expectations. In chapter 7 of David's book, the chapter is titled How to Become Yes. He says, our yes to the conditions of existence means getting on with life rather than being caught up in dispute and in attempts to gain control of how things will play out. He later then says, yes frees us from the suffering caused by the compulsion to be in charge. So true. He walks you through it beautifully in a simple manner to understand. Boom, my mind was blown. I could feel my control of things let up after devouring this book because I walked away with some new perspectives and expanded on some of the other ones I already had been working on. Then after I finished this book, there was another book recommended to me, which was titled The Surrender Experiment by Michael Singer. And this book, it's a memoir that chronicles the author's journey of spiritual awakening and the profound impact of letting go and trusting life's flow. This was a fascinating book for me to read. I am actually incredibly envious of him that he could live in the manner that he did. Because for me, being a former control freak, I was like, what? Give up control? Oh, hell no. So he really opened my eyes to what exists beyond what we can see in our lives physically. It was super interesting because he let go of resistance and control in his life and surrendered to whatever life had presented to him. He had a commitment to absolute non-resistance and trust in the universe to guide him through all his phases of life, from living in the woods to meditating a bunch to having a $1 billion thriving company. After reading this, my white knuckle hold on my life was definitely easing up. This book actually built upon what I learned in the book I just mentioned in David Rico's book. How remarkable, right? Then that same year, another book comes along the control resistance theme that was recommended to me. And the title is Loving What Is by Byron Katie. This book to me was the most profound of the three. It's like each book, the concepts that I learned and applied to my life were just building on the next one and the next one. Such a remarkable synchronicity to have read all three of these books because I was focused on changing the resistance and control that I felt in my life. Just amazing. And I will have all these books linked in the description of this episode so you don't have to worry if you didn't get a chance to write them all down. The book, Loving What Is, you definitely have to be ready for it because there are some really intense parts. And she details out what she calls the work. This is the central concept of the book. And it consists of 4 questions that help people examine their stressful thoughts and find relief. And I'll share those questions with you because they're remarkable. Is it true? Can you absolutely know that it's true? How do you react when it happens, when you believe that thought? Who would you be without the thought? You can do this for anything that's troubling you in your life. It allowed me to let go and release control, transformed pain and suffering that I was feeling around certain situations. And it made me feel more free, more happiness, way more frequently in my life. And I'm all about taking the stance of why can't I feel happy every single moment? Why can't I relish in being alive here today and relish in all the joy. That's ultimately what I want to feel and how I want to live my life. So going back to the feeling that I mentioned at the beginning, where I could feel my body explode from the inside with the most intense feeling of gratitude and love. I was at a seminar for entrepreneurs. I was sitting amongst fellow recruiting firm business owners, and we were in a session listening to a mindset coach. In this group, we had strategy coach and a mindset coach, which is why I was a part of this program, because as an entrepreneur, you need both elements. When you are running a business, you can't just have strategy and execution. You will eventually plateau out with your growth, with your business growth. You got to go deep and fix your mindset and unwind any limiting beliefs that are not serving you so you can grow. Because if you don't develop your mindset, your business will stay stagnant and your business isn't going to grow either. I learned this when I hired my first business coach way back when I had only been in business for, a few months, maybe like 8 months. My coach told me that the lid that I have on myself and my mindset is transferring directly over to my business. And by holding myself back from my full potential, I was also holding my business back. Oh, frustrating, right? But it's totally true, because when I started working on my mindset, my business growth exploded. Instead of hitting the same revenue month after month after month, after I worked on my mindset, we had 380% business growth. Any business would love to have 380% growth in 1 year. So back to the seminar. Frances, the mindset coach, is teaching us mindset stuff, and she begins to ask a question to all of us. She says, what is the opposite of resistance? And I sat there thinking hard, and I thought the word release. So I shouted it out. Other people were responding to her and shouting out their answers. And then one person in the audience said, surrender. And she said, yes. The opposite of resistance is surrender. I remember exactly where I was. I was in a hotel conference room, seated at a large round table with a white linen covering the table. There's a glass water pitcher in the middle, a glass of water sitting in front of me, my notebook and a pen. The experience is so vivid in my mind that I can be back in that moment in an instant. And in that moment, when Frances said the word surrender, my body freaking exploded with emotions from my heart throughout my entire body. Then a massive light bulb went off in my head. And I was like, that's the word. That's the word I need to get tattooed on my forearm to remind me every day to surrender. I even leaned over to Tracy, who was sitting next to me, and I said, I'm getting that word tattooed right here. And I pointed to my left forearm. Surrender doesn't mean give up and give in. What it means is allowing me to allow life to happen for me. Surrendering into the flow of life. Aligning to the greater forces that exist in the universe. To stop white knuckling to control every damn thing in my life with force, but to surrender and allow myself to flow down the river of the goodness of life. Be like water flowing down the stream. The water continuously flows, flowing down around the rocks, around the sand, over the sand in a constant flow. And in the past, I would have totally labeled myself a control freak. I would often resist things through trying to control everything, which now is so incredibly funny because with all the mindset learning and growth I've had, what I've come to realize is there are not many things I can control in life. I do know I can control my beliefs. I do know I can control my thoughts. I can control my emotions. One thing in life is I can control my reaction to something, how I react to people or situations or circumstances. That's kind of all I'm in control of. I can't control people. I can't control situations. And when I surrender, I'm placing my trust in the universe. I trust that I'm here for a reason. I'm constantly in practice of releasing and surrendering. In January of 2022, I got that word, surrender, tattooed on my left forearm to remind myself to trust in life and trust in myself and know that I'm being guided to exactly where I'm supposed to be. I hadn't had a tattoo since 1995, and that tattoo is a colorful sun on my lower back, which today would be called a tramp stamp. But trust me, no one in 1995 was calling any tattoo a tramp stamp. I remember when I got that sun tattoo. It was so painful. When they did the outline, it felt like someone was cutting through my skin with a razor. I still remember those shooting pains down my legs because it was on the lower back, which has so many nerve endings. But I'm no chicken. I'm going to go for it. Took me about a year to find the script and size that I like because a tattoo is permanent and it's a big deal. My tat is totally custom because the tattoo artist created the leading and tail edge for me. And when I went into the tattoo shop, I had a size printed on a piece of paper of how big I wanted it. And the tattoo artist said, with that script, you want it to be bigger, Renee. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to read it and it's going to look all garbled together. So I trusted him and off we went. Let me tell you, this tattoo hurt like a son of a bitch. He told me that since it only took 15 minutes to complete, my adrenaline never kicked in. So that's why I felt so much pain from this tattoo. No adrenaline for me. Now what I have is a beautiful daily reminder to let go. And it's actually a joke around my house because if I'm doing something back in my control freak ways, my husband will say, Renee, look at your arm. And then I laugh and stop white knuckling things. Even my daughters will say that to me. Mom, look at your arm, as a reminder. So it goes to show habits and patterns of thinking are tough to get rid of if you don't have someone helping you point them out or a coach to help you dig deep and hold you accountable so you can get rid of those patterns and put in place the patterns that will unlock your potential and unlock all the joy that's waiting inside of you to live your most magnificent, fulfilling life. And for all the new listeners out there, make sure you check out the links in the description of this episode so you can gain access to all of our free resources and learn more about my coaching programs. Check it out. So the key points from today's episode are: the universe will always provide you with the right things at the right time. Seeking out accountability from others allows you to accomplish your goals faster. Trust the flow of life by understanding that many circumstances are out of your control. Thanks so much for listening, everyone. Share this episode with someone you love and go make one change to be better than you were yesterday. Live your life with intention. I believe in you. I'm on a mission to help as many people as possible. So if you would, please hit the follow button so we can grow our community of conscious professionals. Whether you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, you can find the button at the top of the page. See you next week. Cheers, everyone.